But today we're going to be back in our series called Without Excuse, where we've been learning from mistakes. Specifically, we've been in the book of Matthew, chapter 23, looking at these mistakes that the Pharisees were being called out for, the woes of Jesus. Not really a place that a lot of people spend time, but there's something profound when we look at the examples that has come before us, good and bad, so we can either emulate or learn from and not repeat the same mistakes that they've made. As I was scrolling through Facebook, I saw a compelling illustration to me this week. I was looking and there was a diagram of a World War II plane. And it had these little red dots on the diagram. It said in World War II that the military analysts wanted to study returning jets and see where the bullet holes were. And so they had this diagram and they drew on it every place there was bullet hole in a returning jet. And they wanted to reinforce those areas to increase their success in battle. And there was an analyst who saw this, a statistician, and he said, wait a minute, we're looking at this from the wrong perspective. There's a fallacy in what you're doing. You're looking at what you can see, the holes that you can see, but the problem is there was critical failure when it was hit in other places. So in the wings and the tail of the plane, when it was hit there, it wasn't a critical failure. But when it was hit in the engines or the cockpits, there was a critical failure. So that's where we need to reinforce the planes. It's a pretty simple illustration, but sometimes we just need a differing perspective. Sometimes we can focus so much on what we see that we miss what is missing, right? That's where our focus can become. We're going to look at Matthew 23 again. It says, woe to you, teachers of the law and Pharisees, you hypocrites. You give a tenth of your spices, your mint, your dill, and your cumin, but you've neglected the more important matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faithfulness. You should have practiced the latter without neglecting the former. You blind guides, you strain out a gnat, but you swallow a camel. Today, as we learn, so we can be without excuse, I want to ask a question. What are you missing? You see, the focus today isn't on what we're doing, but it's on what we're neglecting. These Pharisees, these scribes, right? They were bringing the offerings. They were doing what they were supposed to do. They were good at doing. I mean, that's really what the Pharisees were known for. They performed. They obeyed the law perfectly, flawlessly. Yet their performance based on the law was what caused them to miss the point of the law. The point of God's law, when God gave Moses his law, his point wasn't to give a list of regulations to do. His point was to give Moses a guide for his people to be in covenant relationship with him. He wanted relationship with us. And then the Pharisees, they focused more on the law than they did on him. And they were missing a whole bunch in what they were doing. I'll start with a little commentary I read on verse 4. If you strain out a gnat, but you swallow a camel. The hyperbole here is humorous and would certainly catch ancient hearers' attention. Wanting to avoid the impurity caused by a dead insect in their drink, Pharisees would strain out an insect as small as a fly and anything larger than a lentil before it could die in order to preserve the fluid. That was based on Levitical law. Pharisees considered gnats, which were smaller than lentils, exempt from this impurity. But the scrupulous Pharisee of Jesus' hyperbole wouldn't have taken any chances. Yet Jesus charges hyperbolically that they would leave a camel, the largest animal in Palestine and richly unclean, in the cup and gulp it down. Their attention to the law's detail was fine, but they had missed the main point. That was from the IVP Bible background commentary. But the reality was the Pharisees were so consumed with the little things that they were missing the blatant things before them. What are you missing? There was a story in the Old Testament. It's a story of Saul. I want to look a little bit at his story and what was happening in Israel at that time. Is this was a time where they were transitioning and there was judges that had governed Israel, and now they cried out for a king. And that's the season in which we meet Saul. Saul, when we meet him, he's just out looking for his dad's donkeys. His father lost his donkeys, and he's trying to find them, and he can't find them. So he wants to go see the seer, the man of God, in order to ask him for help in where his donkeys were. Unbeknownst to him, God had already spoken to the man of God, that was Samuel, about the destiny of Saul. Saul started the day expecting to find donkeys. He ended the day being anointed to be king of Israel, a position he never expected, a position he wasn't prepared to accept. 1 Samuel chapter 10, look at this moment. Samuel took a flask of olive oil, poured it on Saul's head, and kissed him, saying, "Has not the Lord anointed you to rule over his inheritance? When you leave me today, you'll meet two men near Rachel's tomb at Zelzah on the border of Benjamin. They will say to you, the donkeys you set out to look for have been found. And now your father has stopped thinking about them and is worried about you. He is asking, what shall I do about my son?" And you go on from there until you reach the great tree of Tabor. 3 men going up to worship God at Bethel will meet you there. One carrying 3 young goats, another 3 loaves of bread, and another a skin of wine. They will greet you and offer you 2 loaves of bread, which you will accept from them. After that, you will go to Gibeah of God, and there is a Philistine outpost. As you approach the town, you'll meet a procession of prophets coming down from the high place with lyres, timbrels, pipes, and harps played before them, and they will be prophesying. The Spirit of the Lord will come powerfully upon you, and you will prophesy with them, and you'll be changed into a different person. All these signs are fulfilled. Do whatever your hands find to do, for God is with you. Go down ahead of me to Gilgal, and I surely will come down to you to sacrifice burnt offerings and fellowship offerings. But you must wait 7 days until I come down to you and tell you what you are to do." As Saul turned to leave Samuel, God changed Saul's heart, and all these signs were fulfilled that day. I know that was a lot to read, but I just find it compelling. I want a journey like Saul's, where I can talk to a man of God. And that man of God gave Saul explicit instructions about everything that God was going to do. You're going to go here. You're going to see this. This is going to happen there. You're going to go there. This is what they'll say. I mean, everything that Samuel told Saul, God did. God made a promise. He kept his promise. God said this is what was going to happen. And he followed through with every detail. All the signs were fulfilled. It says Samuel reigned in Israel for 42 years. At one point, he was preparing 3,000 men for a battle. And before they went to battle, they were supposed to offer up some offerings, make an offering to God. And Samuel was supposed to come do that. But Saul became impatient with Samuel, and he offered the offerings without Samuel there. Samuel's response to him when that happened, "You've done a foolish thing," Samuel said. "You've not kept the command the Lord your God gave you. If you had, he would have established your kingdom over Israel for all time. But now your kingdom will not endure. The Lord has sought out a man after his own heart and appointed him ruler of his people, because you have not kept the Lord's command." Samuel rebuked Saul. He said, "You have not obeyed God's command." And to replace you, God's seeking a man after his own heart. I have to think that's a rebuke towards Samuel about the position of his heart. It's something that comes through again in Samuel's life later. He's called to go to battle against the Amalekites. And when he goes to battle, he disobeys God. Samuel chapter 15 says, Samuel said to Saul, "I'm the one the Lord sent to anoint you king over Israel. So now listen to the message from the Lord. This is what the Lord Almighty says. I will punish the Amalekites for what they did to Israel when they waylaid them as they came up from Egypt. Now go and attack the Amalekites. Totally destroy all that belongs to them. Do not spare them. Put to death the men, the women, the children, the infants, the cattle, the sheep, the camels, and the donkeys." God gave Saul instruction through Samuel. Every detail. Totally destroy the Amalekites. Verse 9 tells us, "But Saul and the army spared Agag the best of the sheep and the cattle, the fat calves and the lambs, everything that was good. These they were unwilling to destroy completely, but everything that was despised and weak, they totally destroyed." Once again, Samuel had a heart condition. Saul had a heart condition. Saul didn't do what God asked him to do. Early in the morning, Samuel got up and went to meet Saul, but he was told, "Saul has gone to Carmel. There he set up a monument in his own honor and has turned and gone on to Gilgal." Samuel reached out to him, and Saul said, "The Lord bless you. I've carried out the Lord's instructions." But Samuel said, "What is this bleating sheep in my ears? What is this lowing of cattle that I hear?" And Saul answered, "These soldiers brought them from the Amalekites. They spared the best of the sheep and cattle to sacrifice to the Lord your God, but we totally destroyed the rest." "Enough," Samuel said to Saul. "Let me tell you what the Lord told me last night." "Tell me," Saul replied. Samuel said, "Although you were once small in your own eyes, did you not become the head of the tribe of Israel? The Lord anointed you king over Israel. He set you on a mission saying, go and completely destroy those wicked people, the Amalekites. Wage war against them until you wipe them out. Why did you not obey the Lord? Why did you pounce on the plunder and do evil in the eyes of the Lord?" "But I did obey the Lord," Saul said. "I went on the mission the Lord assigned me. I completely destroyed the Amalekites and brought back Agag, their king. The soldiers took sheep from the plunder, the best of what was devoted to God, in order to sacrifice them to the Lord your God at Gilgal." But Samuel replied, "Does the Lord delight in burnt offerings and sacrifices as much in obeying the Lord? To obey is better than sacrifice, and to heed is better than the fat of the ram. For rebellion is like the sin of divination, and arrogance like the evil of idolatry. Because you've rejected the word of the Lord, he has rejected you." Saul's story was that he was not a man after God's own heart. When God called him into battle, what's the first thing we see? He went and did what he wanted to do. And then, where does Samuel find Saul? He finds him building a monument to himself. He's got an arrogance and a pride. He's focused on him more than God. After the pride becomes denial, right? I did everything that God told me to do. And Samuel responds, "What's the bleating of the sheep, the cattle that I hear?" Pride, denial, justification. We just did that. We got the best so that we could sacrifice them to God. In the response of Samuel, the response that God is speaking is, what good are burnt offerings? What good were Samuel's burnt offerings, right? When they were done with the wrong heart. These were the representation of disobedience. Why offer them to God now? What are you missing? James kind of puts it this way for us, contemporary believers. "What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if someone claims they have faith but they has no deeds? Can such faith save them? Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about their physical need, what good is it? In the same way, faith by itself, if not accompanied by action, is dead. But some will say, 'You have faith, I have deeds. Show me your faith without deeds, and I will show you my faith by my deeds.' You believe there is one God. Good. Even the demons believe that and shudder." And later on he says, "As the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without deeds is dead." What is your life missing? You might be checking the boxes of, "I've done this, I've gone to church, I've prayed this many times," but what about the mercy? What about the justice? What about the love that God has for you? What about the call that he's placed on your life? What about the plans and purposes that he wants to accomplish for you? Are you obeying him completely, or are you allowing flesh? Are you allowing things? Are you focused on the wrong things so that you can't accomplish all that God has called you to do? Let's learn from the mistakes of the Pharisees. Let's answer that question. What am I missing? The Lord bless you and keep you. May he make his face shine upon you, be gracious to you, may he turn his face towards you, grant you his peace, and may you recognize what you're missing so you obey God completely. Be blessed.